Hello and welcome to Daily Records, and today's record is one that's a little bit sentimental for me and a little bit of nostalgia. It's the Jesus Christ Superstar album. Now here's the thing, this thing's been through a lot of different permutations, and we'll kind of go through each of them here because I have a couple of them. The first being a Broadway show. This has Ben Vereen on it. Broadway album, and it was also a motion picture directed by Norman Jewison, and so there's a soundtrack for the movie. Same music, but this is the original album. Now, I got this as a Christmas gift when I was in high school, and I was really into Andrew Lloyd Webber. I loved Phantom of the Opera and stuff like that, but this is an album that was given to me as a present on cassette tape. And I listened to it in a Walkman, and I immediately became really hooked on it, hearing this. Now, what the album represents. Now, like I said, first off, let me just say this is an album. It was released in 1970, written by Andrew Lloyd Webber and the lyricist Tim Rice. And before it was a musical, before it was staged or anything like that, it was just a concept album, and it's one of the first things that Andrew Lloyd Webber ever did, and so this kind of put him on the map. It was a big seller, and it really was a controversial record when it was released. It's a gatefold. There's nothing in the gatefold there, but it did come with a booklet, like a libretto, and featuring the cast, which this recording had. Murray Head, who later did One Night in Bangkok from Chess, which was a big hit. But Murray Head played the part of Judas Iscariot. But more interesting, the part of Jesus was played by Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. Great rock and roll voice, just powerful singer. But this was a sort of look at the last days of Christ, the passion of Jesus Christ. And it took a lot of heat. Also in the cast was Yvonne Ellimon as Mary Magdalene. And of course, she went on to have a hit on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, If I Can't Have You. But there was a lot of controversy about this album, and I think the purpose that it was trying to serve, or what it was trying to do, was to take Jesus off of stained glass windows and kind of stuffy, biblical reference, and put him in history. And I guess the most controversial thing is that the story is told from the point of view of Judas, and it sort of deals in why Judas betrayed him and sort of the politics of the day and everything that was going on, and why people were doing what they were doing, how Pontius Pilate was sort of a reluctant executor. And to me, it is not offensive in that I don't see anything just outright. I know a lot of people had issues with Mary Magdalene and the song "I Don't Know How to Love Him," which was sort of her struggling with her love for him, in addition to her dealing with him being a Messiah or being God. And so without getting into too much of the religious part of it and sort of that, and I'm sure some people may comment below and give their thoughts on it, and that is perfectly fine. I welcome that. But what it represents to me is sort of a historic telling, not a biblical telling of the Passion of Christ. And it really, to me, it helped me to understand the Passion more than anything else I'd heard up to that point. But the music itself was instantly I was hooked, and I had this thing pretty much memorized after about a week of listening to it, and enjoyed it. And I still do enjoy it. As a hard rocking album, I don't know. It may be a little too light for that, but it's got some really powerful moments, particularly when Ian Gillan sings the Garden of Gethsemane song, where Jesus is praying in the garden before his crucifixion. And I guess the most controversial thing from the album was the single, Superstar, which a lot of people know because a lot of high school bands and college bands play it in the stands at football. Of course, they've changed the words around, but the lyric was, Jesus Christ Superstar, do you think you're what they say you are? And the sort of idea behind the song, and the way I interpret it, is that it's a question, and that people are, and that Murray Head, who sings it, And he comes back as sort of after he kills himself, he comes back and asks Jesus just before he dies, could you have come at a different time? What's your deal, basically, and are you the real deal? And to me, it's a legitimate question, and I think it's something that everyone struggles with. But a lot of extremely right-wing and conservative Christians were very offended by what was going on here at the time. It was very shocking, and especially to take the story of Christ and put it in such an interesting setting. And the movie kind of helped further that because it was very anachronistic. Roman soldiers carrying machine guns, so on and so forth, sort of presented as sort of a hippie desert play. But that's another thing. And from what I understand, NBC is doing one of those live versions of it coming up this year. So the timing is appropriate to talk about it. But I actually do like Jesus Christ Superstar, and I do listen to it quite a bit. And it really does bring me further into the scripture and reading. So if its purpose was to drive people away or anything like that, it didn't work for me. Just on a personal level, but you can find this thing out there. There's a lot of copies of it, and it's relatively cheap. But I enjoy it for what it is. So today's record of the day, Jesus Christ Superstar. Now tune in to my other channel, Tommy Burton's VC channel. That's where I do a lot more extensive discussion. This probably almost could have been on there as well. I've not really seen a lot of people talk about it, but either way, like, subscribe, comment, share. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's TommyBurton75. I usually show what I'm spinning there. And tune in tomorrow for another record. And thank you so much for watching.